Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land where I'm bound, where I'm bound. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land where I'm bound. There'll be freedom in that land. There'll be freedom in that land. There'll be freedom in that land where I'm bound, where I'm bound. There'll be freedom in that land. There'll be freedom in that land. There'll be freedom in that land where I'm bound. There'll be justice in that land. There'll be justice in that land. There'll be justice in that land where I'm bound, where I'm bound. There'll be justice in that land. There'll be justice in that land. There'll be justice in that land where I'm bound. There'll be singing in that land. There'll be singing in that land. There'll be singing in that land where I'm bound, where I'm bound. There'll be singing in that land. There'll be singing in that land. There'll be singing in that land where I'm bound.
Okay, get out those kazoos. We are gonna sing Now Let Us Sing. It's a good kazoo song, so you can kazoo along.
Now let us sing,
Sing to the
sing, sing, sing. Now let us sing, 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 sing. Lift up your voice, be not afraid. Now let us sing to the power of the faith within. Now let us sing,
Sing to the
sing, sing, sing. Now let us sing,
Sing to the
sing, sing, sing. Lift up your voice, be not afraid. Now let us sing to the power of the hope within. Now let us sing, 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 sing. Now let us sing, sing, sing. Lift up your voice, be not afraid. Now let us sing to the power of the love within. Now let us sing, 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 sing. Now let us sing, 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 sing. Lift up your voice, be not afraid. Now let us sing to the power of the joy within.
I hope you kazooed along with me. Now here's one of our favorites.
Oh, below me I feel no ocean, standing on these mountains and plains, far away from the rolling ocean. Still my dry land heart can say, I've been sailing all my life now. Never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue home.
Good morning. Good morning. Isn't it wonderful to sing together? Even though we are only hearing our own voices, we are really enjoying all of those wonderful hymns that we haven't sung in a really long time. Thank you for joining us this morning and welcome. Welcome to the Boise Unitarian Universalist Fellowship's online worship service. And welcome again to our Celebration Sunday, our Together We Thrive service. This is the wrap up, the finale of our annual giving drive, an opportunity for us to celebrate one another, to celebrate the extraordinary gifts this fellowship has given to all of us, especially over the course of this last year. I want to thank our stewardship team again, our amazing team, led by the fabulous Lee Steigel for our annual Giving Drive campaign. They have done some amazing work to create this service full of all kinds of fun, celebratory surprises for all of us to enjoy together. So please hang with us for the longer service today, because there is one big surprise near the very end, a really final video that we're excited to share with you, and wonderful surprises throughout. We have so much talent among us, and we're showcasing all of that today, showcasing the way that we help all of us thrive. I have a few announcements that I want to share with all of you because this is our annual Giving Drive wrap up. We will have a moment for taking those last minute pledges in our service, but we will not have a formal weekly offering. So if you wish to make your offering gift this morning, you can do so at any time during the service by going to our website at boiseu.org, clicking give in the very top right corner of the screen and following the prompts in the donation form there. I also want to remind everyone that next Sunday, our board will host a question and answer session in preparation for our annual meeting, which, can you believe, is only a few weeks away. It's an opportunity for you to hear from the board a little bit about our budget, about some of the things that they're working on, about where we're at and what our thinking is for the future of worship and when we might get to come back together in person, which we don't really know, but we're making plans to do so, hopefully for the fall. So please join us after worship next Sunday for that Q&A. And our Earth Month continues with all of the extraordinary opportunities for learning together. You can join my family and our climate action team tomorrow night for the Meatless Monday cooking class, where we're all going to cook together. It's not We're going to have some fun cooking together in our Meatless Monday class. So please feel free to join us tomorrow night. As we gather together each week, even virtually, we take a moment to acknowledge who is with us on this journey and also who is rendered invisible. We recognize the land upon which our church and homes exist is the ancestral land of the Shoshone Bannock and Paiute tribes, the Nez Perce tribe, and many other tribes who inhabited a vast region, including much of Idaho, before they were rounded up and forced to leave. This land has a long history, long before colonization. We acknowledge that our presence here today is founded upon the exclusions and erasures of many Indigenous peoples who have much to teach us about ecological frameworks for living in divine harmony with our earth. And it's with this acknowledgement each week that we wish to demonstrate an ongoing commitment to the process of dismantling the legacies of settler colonialism. Many of these Native peoples still live among us today. We honor their connection to the land and we support their right to sovereignty. As we fully enter into this time of celebration and worship together, let's all take a moment and have a breath. I invite you to breathe with me. Fill your body with breath. Breathe, knowing that our breath connects us to one another, to our bodies, to our planet. Our breath offers us the opportunity for stillness, to tune in to our spiritual center, to listen deeply to our heart's own longing. And as you hear the words of our opening poem this morning, I invite you to hear these words as expressed to this beloved community. Thou art the song of my heart in the morning. Thou art the dawn of truth in my soul. Thou art the dew of the roses adorning. Thou art the woven whole. Thine is the grace to be steadfast in danger. Thine is the peace that none can destroy. Thine is the face of the need-driven stranger. Thine are the wings of joy. Thou art the deep, to the deep in me calling. Thou art a lamp where my feet shall tread. Thy way is steep past the peril of falling. Thou art my daily bread. Thine be the praise of my spirit uplifted. Thou art the sea to each flowing stream. Thine be the days that are gathered and sifted. Thou art the deathless dream.
This is our home, this is the place where we gather and give thanks. Here we welcome all inside the arms of love. Through the storm, through the sun, we come together as one. For this is where peace and justice abide. This is our home. We all need a place to laugh and shed our tears, a place to celebrate and share our fears, a place of belonging where we don't feel alone. We all need friends, we all need care, we all need love. So we come home into this place where we gather and give thanks. Here we welcome all inside the arms of love. Through the storm, through the sun, we come together as one. For this is where peace and justice abide. This is our home. We all need a place to wander and to dream, a place where we become who we want to be, a place of hope and healing where we feel whole. We all need help, we all need strength, we all need love. So we come home into this place where we gather and give thanks. Here we welcome all inside the arms of love. Through the storm, through the sun, we come together as one. For this is where peace and justice abide. This is our home. There's a roof overhead to keep the rainfall out, and the walls keep the winds at bay. The windows, they let the sun shine in shelter together, come what may. We all need a place to shine a mighty light, a place to work for all that's just and right, a place to share our bounty, to build a better world. We all need faith, we all need hope, we all need love. So we come home into this place where we gather and give thanks. Here we welcome all inside the arms of love. Through the storm, through the sun, we come together as one. For this is where peace and justice abide. This is our home. This is our home. This is our home. This is our home. This is our home.
Hooray! Surprise! Isn't it wonderful to have Dave and Carrie playing live with us in the sanctuary? We're not all here together, but we're reminiscing about this crew a year ago who did the worship service right here from this very spot, and it's lovely to hear live voices. Thank you both so much.
Thank you. At this hour, in small towns and big cities, in living rooms and ornate sanctuaries, many of our sibling Unitarian Universalists are also lighting flaming chalice to remind us that we are part of a great community of faith. We welcome our young chalice lighters who ground us in our hope for a brighter future, even in the darkest of times. If you have a chalice nearby, you are invited to light it with our young chalice lighter, Derek Miller. Hi, Derek. As he lights the chalice from his home, you are also invited to share in the chat where you have lit your chalice this morning.
With our collective chalices lit in all our spaces, we offer you this call to worship. Our home longs for our return. Empty rooms sit quiet, void of conversation, searching for the pulse of life.
The piano aches for a laying on of hands. The walls pine for drifting melodies, soothing harmonies, guitar chords, and drum beats.
Couches call to be draped by languishing youth. Classrooms search for shrieks and giggles, for singing 8 principals.
The kitchen yearns for heat and steam and the laughter of cooking with love. The meditation circle hoping for soft heartbeats in silence.
And yet, wherever 2 or 3 are gathered together, there too we thrive.
Wherever we see smiling faces of our beloved community, there is our home. There too we thrive.
Whenever we strive to live out our values as contenders of justice, conjurers of hope for a hurting world, for worth and dignity, for peace and our interdependent web, there too we thrive.
However we embody this faith, wherever sacred space calls to us, whenever love pulls us toward each other and that divine spark, there too we thrive.
All of this community, this history, this connection, this moment in our ever-changing world, this love that abides in all things. Together, we thrive. Come, let us worship together.
I invite everyone to cozy up for our Time for All Ages this morning. Because on this wonderful, cheery, bright, maybe a little less bright than usual morning, we are celebrating. And there is so much to celebrate, especially when we look past the last year, the time since our last Celebration Sunday, and think of all the ways that we've missed each other, shown up for each other, and learned together, even from afar. Today, as we're celebrating each other and our time together and our community, it's good to look forward to ways we will continue to explore and build new ways to gather together. Being a people of community means returning time and again and in new ways every time to one another. Can you think of a time when you were away from someone, you miss them, or maybe you wanted to be away from them because you've been stuck inside with them too long? Can you think of that feeling of what it was like to come back to them? Our story this morning is going to help us think about what it takes to want to be with other people in community and to how to come back together after hard times. It is called Stone Soup, and it is adapted from the book Version by John Muth. And once again, we have a wonder board, so you'll have to be mindful of me changing the camera. Don't get dizzy. So change this. There we go. 3 young people traveled along a winding road. Their names were Imani. You can see her all the way. Imani, Sparrow, and Robbie. There was a 4th. They traveled with Robbie's child, Octavia, but Octavia does not say very much in our story today. They talked about music and art, their friends, and the challenges of life. They talked about their dreams and how they hoped to change the world and create a community that is accepting and just. But they were also very hungry, so they talked about food. The very youngest one wondered out loud, "What makes one happy?" They all had opinions. Beauty, love, cool people, awesome music, good books. Imani, who was the wisest, suggested that the 3 of them go to search to find out. So their journey continued on. The sound of a bell brought their gaze to the rooftops of a small town below. They could not see from so high above that the town had been through hard times, lost jobs and homes during the pandemic and shutdowns, struggles to combat white supremacy in the face of state violence, ice storms and fires decimating land and resources, collectively mourning the lives lost to the pandemic and violence and climate change. All this had made the townspeople weary and untrusting of strangers and each other. The townspeople worked hard, but only for themselves. There was a farmer, a coffee shop owner, a teacher, a tailor, a doctor, a carpenter, and many others, but they had little to do with each other. When the teenagers rounded the bend into the town, the people ran back inside their homes. No one came to the town square to say hello, and they all shut their windows tightly. This was not a welcome or a welcoming of any kind. The teenagers went around and they knocked on the door of the first house. There was no answer. They had watched someone go in, and yet there was no answer. And the house went dark. They knocked on a second door. The same thing happened. And it happened again and again from one house to the next. At this point, the teenagers knew for certain, as teenagers do, that these townspeople did not know happiness. It was like they had given up. So the three decided to teach them how to make stone soup. As they were preparing, they gathered twigs and branches to make a fire, and they sang a little song together that they had learned while they were on the road. Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshipper, lover of learning. And Sparrow said, I love that song. It reminds me of my church where I grew up. They placed a small pot on top of their fire and filled it with water from the village well. There was one brave little girl. Oh, she is shadowed. I am so sorry. Here she is, though. She's looking brave. And she came out watching them. And she asked, what are you doing? Sparrow said, oh, hi, little girl. We're just whipping up some hot stone soup. We think this town needs a little pick-me-up. Plus, we are starving, but we need 3 large stones for our soup. Do you know where we can get some? The little girl helped the teenagers look around the square until they found just the right ones. Round, different colors and shapes. Go up here. They were perfect, the teenagers said. Where are you wiggling? Okay. Stones, or soup from stones, thought the little girl. That sounded strange and not yummy. But they dropped the stones into the water, and out loud, the 3 teens noted that the stones would make an excellent soup. Oh, but the pot is too small. The little girl jumped up excitedly and ran home, calling back that she knew her mother had the biggest pot around. As she started to take the pot, her mother noticed, as mothers usually do, and asked, what are you doing? She said, the 3 strangers are making soup from stones and they need a bigger pot. The girl's mother was curious because stones are so easy to come by, and she wanted to learn how to make that soup. So she followed her daughter to the fire. The youth poked at the coals, blew on the embers, and really got the fire going. Oh yeah. As smoke drifted up, more and more neighbors started to notice. They peered out from their windows. The fire and the large pot was in the middle of the village, and it was a true curiosity. So one by one, they came out to see what this stone soup was. Here's our first little group of people. The shadow is up. The teenagers just kept stirring and stirring the soup. Of course, as they stirred their awesome soup, Robbie wondered out loud how it was really good when it was seasoned with salt and pepper. Imani and Sparrow nodded in agreement as they stirred and said so woefully, alas, we have no salt and pepper. One of the villagers, a scholar, called out that indeed she had some salt and pepper. Here's our scholar with a couple of other villagers. So she raced away, returning with not just salt and pepper, but a little extra spices from her cupboard. All right. By this time, the biggest part of the crowd was children who had snuck out of their houses because they were so curious about these teenagers making soup. The townspeople noticed their children were not in their homes with the lights off and the windows closed, but had gathered at this town square further away. So they started coming out of their houses, lingering on their porches, and keeping an eye on these somewhat suspicious youth. Sitting around the fire, hearing stories and songs from the strangers, the children began having so much fun, laughing and singing and helping to stir the soup. Everyone slowly began to relax. A few of them even started to smile, and they felt their hearts opening up. Robbie said, "You know, the last time we had stone soup of this size and color, carrots made the broth very sweet." "Carrots," said a townsperson from their window. "Well, I have a few carrots in my fridge." And look, that townsperson came out running with carrots. One of the children helped go and grab them for the soup. She returned with as many as she could and dropped them into the pot. "Do you think it would be better with onions?" said Amani. Sparrow said, "Oh yes, onions add so much flavor." "I have onions," shouted another townsperson, and off the next child ran to fetch them from them, and they dropped them into the soup. Oh, I forgot my little pin. This continued on. Townspeople could smell the stone and carrot and broccoli and salt and pepper seasoned soup, the wafting stream of it, and they started to get hungry themselves, and they nodded. They began to talk to each other about the ingredients that would make their soup even better. "I wonder what's something that you would add to this soup?" One by one, they wondered out loud. "If only we had some eggplant and squash and perhaps cabbage and parsley and rhubarb and corn and Brussels sprouts." And the townspeople kept offering the leftovers from their own home to this soup. Everyone bringing this and that and nothing more than they can spare, but not saving too little. A magical thing started to happen for the townspeople. As each person opened their heart to give, the next person gave even more. And as that happened, the soup grew richer and richer. I'm going to add some more townspeople to our beautiful photo. They stepped outside of their comfort zones, protected, guarded, and suspicious. They stepped into a space filled with laughter, love, and community, a place where magic happens. The teenagers and their helpers stirred, and the pot bubbled, and they said warmly to the others gathered around, "How good it smells! How good it would taste! How giving the neighbors had become!" At last, the soup was ready. The townspeople, the whole village, gathered together. They brought rolls and butter and empty bowls to share. They brought hot spiced cider to drink. Here's their sharing bowls. They had brought candles and lanterns to make the square festive. Candles, lanterns, and rainbows, of course. Everyone sat down to eat. They had not been together for a feast like this for so long, and for as long as anyone could remember. They thought about how colorful and unique and warm and funny and wise all their neighbors actually were. They sang and celebrated long into the night. When they were full and tired from their fun, and some of the children had fallen asleep in their parents' laps, they unlocked their doors and took the teenagers into their homes and gave them very comfortable places to sleep. The next morning, our three strangers packed up, ready to say goodbye. Everyone gathered in the square again to see them off. They packed them sack lunches with snacks for the road. Some of the children begged them to come back again, shouting, "We'll miss you." And the young people knew that while what had happened here was important, They were not done with their journey. They had more to change in the world. The townspeople thanked them and waved. They all felt that they had rediscovered their great community. They realized that sharing with one another made them all feel happy and connected. And finally, Imani thought to themselves, and to think, to be happy is as simple as making stone soup. I wonder, what do you think changed for the people of that village? So making an impossible soup, like a stone soup, helped them learn to be giving again. It's one change. Can you think of a time when you helped create something where different people added different things? What is something that you have to share and offer to others? What is something that you've gotten from another person that really helped you? So I invite everyone to join in singing our community blessing as we honor this multi-generational community full of ever learning, ever growing, ever justice seeking beloveds. Our song this morning is slightly different than usual. We encourage you to bring back out your kazoos to join with this special Together We Thrive animation video created by Miriam Moido. And I wonder who in your house can make the longest, most rock and roll kazoo solo to this wonderful song. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Jem. That's one of my favorite stories of all time. And that story always makes me think of this community and this fellowship and all the ways that each of us have brought what felt like very little to create this beautiful, thriving, magnificent whole that continues to grow in depth and flavor with each passing year. Our final testimonial of this campaign, we have a very special one for you from beloved members who have been part of our fellowship for more than 50 years. They raised their children here, like so many of you are doing now. Their hearts and hands and their generosity have left its mark in nearly every facet of our congregation, from our beautiful outdoor sanctuary to the little bridge, to the choir, and all kinds of unseen places. They are warm and funny and kind, and everyone should have the chance to know them and be in their presence. And of course, no one will ever forget when we had our stewardship consultant here a few years ago working with us, and one of the parting bits of advice she gave in her final report was, "Be like Mary." Here is Alan and Mary Schwartzman.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Alan Schwartzman, and Mary and I have been members since September of 1967. Let me take you back just to around that time. The year before, this Eastern academic Ivy League Jewish boy met an Idaho rancher's daughter, Christian, in Palo Alto, Stanford, California during the summer, and a romance blossomed. an unlikely romance if you ask our parents, but one that brought us to Boise the following year as husband and wife. And it was there that we were searching for a compatible spiritual home. We each got a choice. Mary's choice took me to the Cathedral of the Rockies. And I remember walking in and they gave me a visitor's name tag with a giant cross on it. And I looked over to Mary and said, Mary, I think my grandfather is going to have a hard time coming to grips with this. I got choice number 2. And it was to this little group known as the Boise Unitarian Fellowship. There were no Universalists then. It was located in the old YWCA building on 6th Street and Washington Avenue. And it is now the Women's and Children's Alliance. We walked in and I remember with a giant smile on my face, hearing the opening music. It was Beethoven's Ninth Symphony, A Little Expert. There was a wonderful homily given by one of the members on social responsibility and social justice during the upheaval of the Vietnam War. We were met at the door and greeted and immediately felt at home in this little congregation of about 35 people. I looked at Mary and she looked at me and we said, Eureka, this is our home. We have found it. And we have been there ever since. It was then a little do-it-yourself operation, 35 to 40 members, no professional staff. I remember the debate on the first budget, $2,200, $1,500 of which went to pay rent. RE was generally in the home of one of the members. Look at us now. We stand on each other's shoulders. We pass the torch. We are all keepers of the flame of our flaming chalice. I remember I was asked to do a Seder service with the children at a member's home that year. And there was this little verse that we always give at Seder that resonated with me because it was so applicable to the fellowship. It was, who knows 1, who knows 2, who knows 3? 3 are the members of the patriarchs. 4 are the members of the matriarchs. And at that time, our little fellowship had 3 patriarchs and 4 matriarchs. The patriarchs being Jim Tompkins, our de facto minister, John Harms, our sage and savant, and Jimmy Hopper, our musician and all things musical. And our 4 matriarchs, the Van Hook sisters, otherwise known as Nellie Tregaskis, our elocutionist, and her younger sister, Ethel Mamo Hopper, whose picture graces our sanctuary. She was our poetess and founder of the Easter Pansy celebration, which has been with us for many years. Then there was Vi Harms, our Earth Mother, and Charlotte Tompkins, pianist and historian. Another tradition, which is very close to me, I want to give you the history of. It's our song, The 12 Days of Christmas. It was around 1988 and 1989, just after Elizabeth became minister, and just before or after her stove caught fire at one of our celebrations around Christmas time. And Mary was leading 12 golden rings, the 12 days of Christmas. And when we hit the 5 golden rings, an elderly member, Vern Jones, jumped up and in a stentorian tone and great volume of voice, yelled out, 5 golden rings. That resonated with me. And I have proudly kept up that tradition of the 5 golden ring ceremony started by one of our own members. We stand, yes, on each other's shoulders. Look around at our present day matriarchs and patriarchs in training. as we evolve. We are all part of this wonderful process. And let me leave you then with this one bit of Booth history question, which Reverend Sarah would be proud to have asked on her own. When we came in 1967, there were 3 active participants in the Boise Unitarian Fellowship that are still here and present-day members. Can you name them? I can give you a hint. 2 of them are sisters, and one of them is responsible for the native landscape plant that festoons our beautiful grounds. With that, I'm going to pass the torch on to Mary.
When we first joined in 1967, as Alan said, there were only about 35 people and just a handful of children. The adults were warm and welcoming, crusty and strong, with more than the average number of characters. I think Unitarians have always had more than their average number than even other congregations. But no one had been born a Unitarian. All had left traditional religion with both trauma and wounds, but they felt the need to be part of a community that cared about the big questions of life. I remember being shocked after we'd been there a while by this angry, huge debate over whether to pass a collection plate because it smacked too much of organized religion. However, no one could deny that they received more money when they passed the collection plate. So, as Unitarians often do, they came up with a new tradition, passing the basket. That was okay, and it stayed with us since then. At the time, religious education of the children was based on what Unitarians don't believe. We don't believe in dogma. We don't believe in baptism, etc. But after our 2 children came along, there was a strong group of young parents with children. So we started working with the UUA, finding curriculum that we could teach our children what Unitarians do believe, Unitarian principles. We also started the first sex education for teens in the Treasure Valley. Booth evolved through the years. We grew from a small group where everyone had to do everything to 250 members and paid staff to help support our many groups and their missions. We went from no minister to a part-time minister to a full-time minister who not only married and buried us, but provided leadership and was our voice in the community. There wasn't a choir 53 years ago. We always had live music because of Charlotte Tompkins. She was so good at finding talent and making sure it was all live. But I was lucky to find 6 people willing to practice at least twice to sing 2 songs on a holiday. Now, with our marvelous professional music director, Carrie, and the array of talented musicians and ensembles in the fellowship that perform on a regular basis, we have a choir of 25 people who toured Transylvania in 2018. Another evolution was finding a permanent home. Before buying this Garrett Street property, Booth had many meeting places. We were like leaves in the wind. So this became our heartland, where we could put down roots and spread our ashes and plant our memorial bricks. Originally, it was a horse pasture, but we named it the Pastoral Pasture. With 23 years of loving hands and hard work, it has evolved into our Booth outdoor sanctuary that you enjoy today. And then came COVID. What would happen to Booth and our beloved community? But thanks to the expertise of you in the younger generation, we have evolved again into a virtual Booth with an amazing online presence, which has kept us connected and supported for more than a year as we isolated in our own homes. To us in the older generation, it's pure magic. We could have never done this. Time and again, this fellowship has proven, if there is a need, we will find a way. And you who are new to Booth, I would give this advice. No matter virtual or in person, get involved in the Booth's small groups. They are the heart of this fellowship. This is where you will get to know people and find your own way. To everyone, I would like to say, with great appreciation, we stand on the shoulders of those who came before. But now you are the ones who will take us forward. A blessing on your heads. Shalom. Namaste.
Thank you. Thank you, Alan and Mary, for your heartfelt testimonial. Our fellowship has been blessed by your presence for more than 50 years. That's an extraordinary amount of time. And Alan, I will take you up on your trivia challenge, as I see others have done in the chat, and recognize the others among us who have also been connected with this fellowship for that long. Barb Alexander, whose praises I sing every time I walk around our beautiful sidewalks, gawking at the blooming flowers and landscaping, the trees, the tulips, the irises, and so many other plants whose names I don't even know. And Gwyn Reed and Nancy Harms, who were raised in this fellowship, whose lifeblood and commitment infuse so many places, big and small, seen and unseen, on a daily basis. It is rare that any community can sustain such long-standing membership and loving connection, especially a church. Because church communities rely on people more than anything else, and people, as we all know, while amazing and beautiful and full of unique gifts, we're also tricky and complicated and baffling and sometimes frustrating. So the fact that we have members who have stuck with us through the ups and downs, through conflicts large and small, and people leaving after feeling hurt and bruised, through budget battles and recessions, through multiple moves like leaves in the wind and multiple property purchases, through the late-led years of making it all happen with no professional staff, to the latter years with 2 interim ministers, 3 permanent ministers, and an intern minister, and a growing staff for religious exploration, music, administration, through multiple wars, multiple cultural revolutions, the civil rights movement, the women's movement, September 11th, through a major racial justice reckoning and uprising, and now a global pandemic. All while still offering a haven from the troubling, entrenched, conservative state government. The fact that you're still here is nothing short of a miracle and a testament to your commitment to the evolving and thriving of this beloved community. A blessing on your heads, a blessing on all your heads, for each of you here now, who have stuck it out with us in various forms of isolation over this last year, who have recognized the need for this place, even distanced and virtual. It's nothing short of a miracle. You have sustained us. You have sustained me. Collectively, we have sustained each other. There are not enough words of praise and gratitude to express my love and affection for all that you have given this community. And a lot has changed in 60 years. A lot has changed in this past 1 year. Our budget is quite a lot more than $2,200. We have multiple professional staff to support the general operations of the church, and professional ministry has sustained and grown the spiritual life of the fellowship, helping us stay connected to the community. But we still have offering baskets. And more than that, 60 years later, we still have a passion for social justice, an abiding commitment to our Unitarian Universalist principles and values, a wholehearted willingness to put ourselves out there on issues that might deny basic dignity and human rights, issues that threaten the freedoms of all people to live and thrive as they are, and to pursue and even demand that ideal of justice for all. And while this year has been especially grievous, let us remember Alan and Mary's words. We stand on the shoulders of those who came before us, and we will be the shoulders for those 60 plus years from now. We are connected to each other, to generations past and generations yet to come by that invisible string of love. We are the Stone Soup community, the love that creates the core of our Unitarian Universalist theology and practice. The love that says, each of us is worthy, just as we are. Each of us is welcome in this space, in this life, to live and thrive and love just as we are. It is just that message, that commitment, that has brought so many people in our doors over the decades. Perhaps it was that message that brought you through our doors, or convinced you to stick around long enough to make some connections and to begin to call this place home. A message that welcomed you, no matter your background, no matter your faith tradition or no faith tradition, no matter who you love or how you identify, or where you're from, or what spiritual practices and traditions speak to you now. Whether you heard that message in our amazing music, or in religious exploration classes, in sermons, or in the liturgy, or quiet of worship, or you just felt it bubbling up inside of you, even as you tentatively checked us out, you knew. And along the way, in your journey with this fellowship, whether you've been with us for a few months, this pandemic year, or 10 years, or decades, you have been part of the fabric of this whole and holy community. You have helped bury and say goodbye to beloveds. You've blessed marriages and dedicated new babies and children. You've reached out to offer a soft, steady hand, even if virtually, during health crises, surgeries, breakups, breakdowns, pandemic fatigue. You have helped us thrive. And you, like so many before you, you have stuck it out. You have stayed with us because of that deep and abiding love that anchors you to something larger than yourself, to that life force, that spiritual center, the universe. And like many people and many families, you stay. Even when it's hard or irksome, or somebody says something that pushes all your buttons, or you think your minister prays too much or not enough, or we don't do enough classical music, or too much. You get the idea. You have all stuck it out together. You have helped us thrive. And we have ambitious plans and dreams for our future. Dreams that need each of you. Dreams that include more staffing so we can honor our commitment to keeping quality virtual worship possible with all the coordination and additional technology and audiovisual needs that requires, even once we are all back together in this space. Dreams that include ensuring our beloved religious exploration program thrives and grows as we reignite our Boston Bounders and Coming of Age and OWL programs under the extraordinary loving leadership of Jen, who, in case you didn't know, is only serving us at 25 hours a week and still as a children's coordinator and not yet a full director of RE. Dreams for this space, our home, the roots that we've planted here, for a new coffee and fellowship space. Dreams for deeper and broader social justice advocacy, and of course, dreams to continue growing and thriving in all facets of our congregational life. It feels like most sermons I've given this past year have included some version of the message, this has been a really hard year, and also one full of blessings, and we've helped each other figure out how to cope, how to surrender, how to thrive. But this is the reigning message of the year. I often think about all of the challenges of this year. All of the Sundays I have sat and talked to the screen alone in the sanctuary, conjuring up comfort knowing you're out there beyond my screen, worshiping, singing, praying, and laughing together. And I think about those beloveds for whom virtual worship just doesn't work, and how you are still very much in our hearts. I think about how the schedule of my own life and all of our lives turned upside down and flattened and stretched in ways we never could have imagined. I think about all the loss we've experienced collectively as a nation and personally in our own families, so much loss. But I also think about all the ways in which this fellowship has helped me thrive and helped all of us thrive. I think about that quick shift to virtual church more than a year ago and how our staff just pivoted and jumped in without complaint to help and learn new tools and technology as we stumbled our way through and eventually found a new rhythm. I think about last summer's concert series and early virtual choirs that grew into stunning technological gifts. I think about all the book recommendations and passing along our favorite shows to binge watch on all the streaming platforms. I think about all the little notes and gifts shared between us, about how Carrie brought me flowers on the day after the election, and about how I learned during a Zoom board meeting that adding vodka to your pie crust recipe makes it amazingly flaky. The thing is, it isn't any single thing or one big significant gesture. It's all the little seemingly insignificant moments that remind me what an extraordinary fellowship this is and how being a part of this community has helped us all thrive. We have found a depth and a softness to community that I have not felt before, not quite like this. I hope it stays with us. May we always keep dreaming and thriving together well into the future for generations to come. Amen. I shared with you some of the ways this fellowship has helped me and all of us thrive, but I want to give you an opportunity to share too. I want to invite us, we're going to create a word cloud together, live on our screen. So you will see a link appear in the chat. And for those of you that feel comfortable doing this, just click on that link. It will open up a new window in your web browser and will ask you to answer the question, how has this fellowship helped us thrive? How has this fellowship helped us thrive? You can share up to 3 answers and then come back to your Zoom screen and watch the word cloud come alive with all of our answers. And if that feels like overwhelming technology for you, you can share your answers in the chat and we'll have one of our tech hosts populate the word cloud with your answers. How has Booth helped us thrive? Let's find out. Well, we're, of course, experiencing some technical difficulties with our word cloud, but please feel free to put your answers in the chat and we can take a moment to just absorb all of the ways that this community has helped us thrive. And we're going to invite you to have a chance to share this question in just a few moments. But I want to invite us all into a time of prayer and meditation. Join me in the spirit of prayer. Spirit of life and love, holy mystery. In times like these, we've turned inward to rediscover our spirits, to trust the call of our heart's own longing, to dig deep and know that we are held in the great flow of the universe, in that mystery that some call God. In times like these, we've turned toward each other, across distance, through masks and screens, for comfort and care, to know that we are not alone. In times like these, we've returned to the beauty of nature, experiencing the colors and changes of each new season like never before. In times like these, we've learned to slow down, to smile at the sunrise, and soften with the sunset, to contemplate and appreciate, to excavate our hearts to know what truly matters most. In times like these, we've discovered that inescapable network of mutuality, our interdependence, connected to the collective, not independent. How we can save another and be saved by the whole. In times like these, we learn to thrive, not just to survive, to welcome new beginnings, to give more than we ever thought possible, for dreams imagined and made real by our efforts and our deep wells of love. In times like these, together, we thrive. In the name of all that is holy, we pray. Amen.
I'm a one-way motorway. I'm the one that drives the wave and follows you back home. I'm a streetlight shining. I'm a wildlife blinding bright, burning on and on. It's times like these you learn to live again. It's times like these you give and give again. It's times like these you learn to love again. It's times like these, time and time again. I'm a new day rising. I'm a brand new sky to hang the stars upon tonight. I'm a little divided. Do I stay or run away and leave it all behind? I know it's times like these you learn to live again. It's times like these you give and give again. It's times like these you learn to love again. It's times like these, time and time again.
And it's times like these that we need to create all the love and energy to combat hate, and ain't enough to just leave it to the hands of fate. I see you bleeding blue hearts in a solid red state. We're a powerful force when we congregate and demonstrate to elevate all the voices out there that need to be heard, and we can't just stop it at the words.
We make it better together, we make a better life. Because the pressure is everybody's every night. And every day so we pray, we will forever fight.
We make it better together, we make a better life. I'm a one-way motorway. I'm the one that drives the wave and follows you back home.
Wow, amazing. I just want to give a big shout out to the Soulful Sunday band and particularly to Mike Lemieux, who produced that entire video. I have watched it a gajillion times already and I can't stop smiling every time I watch it. Friends, this is the moment. This is our Let's Thrive moment when we invite you to make your pledge to this community. Now, we know that many of you have already submitted your pledge, and we thank you for your generosity. So this would be a fine moment to grab that chocolate out of your swag bag and just have yourself a treat as a thank you for pledging to this community. But we know that some of us, my household included, often wait till the last possible moment to handle things, even important things like our church pledge. So this is that moment. We're going to put a link to the pledge form in the chat. And a little bit later in our service, we will have a live pledge report, like a telethon style pledge report, with a beautiful art installation by our own Miriam Moito and some other exciting surprises. So we're going to play some fabulous music, the full instrumental version of the new hymn written for this campaign by Carrie Bastian, our music director, and beautifully arranged and performed by Mike Lemieux. This is Together We Thrive. All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you to all of you who support this community in many ways beyond pledging. We are so grateful for the way that you have helped our community thrive. We are going to transition ourselves to our live pledge report with some more surprises yet to come. So stay with us. We invite you to enjoy the beautiful music from our sanctuary piano played by our music director, Carrie Bastian. Welcome, everyone, to our live pledge report. Live from our beautiful little bridge on our campus in this beautiful day when the rain has let up just enough so that we can come to you from this beautiful outside space. I am here with Miriam Waito, who is part of our stewardship team and serving as our Vanna White this morning. And we have created these Miriam's created these beautiful, colorful houses. And each house represents, these are what the houses look like. Each house represents a house for each of our pledging households. So here is a string that I have, and some of our houses are hung up here in recognition of those who have already made their pledge. And then we're gonna hang up a few more in just a moment to symbolize all of the pledges that have already been made. So here's some houses. Thank you, Lee Steigel, for making your pledge. Lee, our annual Giving Drive chair. This is our stewardship team house ribbon, Eileen Dingledine. Thank you, Woitos. Thank you, Judy Holcomb. Thank you, Nancy Harms and Patty Nakaoki and Bob Huntley and Liz Radcliffe. We're gonna hang up your ribbon right now. So friends, so many of you have made generous pledges, and we want to thank you for your pledging. Some of you pledged the moment we kicked off our campaign 2 weeks ago. I see you out there, Jennings. Thank you. So I want everyone to take a moment to toot your own horn. So if you have made a pledge, I want you to take a moment to toot your own horn, and I'll invite us all to switch to gallery view and just blow your horns and see everybody tooting your horn. Thank you for the pledges that are coming in today. Thank you. I see Lyndon Boyce and Kathy Carmen. Thank you for pledging. I see Sarah Lawal and Michael Alvarado. Thank you, honey, for making sure our pledge is in. I hope we increased it this year. Thank you, Anne-Marie and Mark Bussolini. Toot your own horn. Thank you to our awesome president, Scott Smith and Kathy Sandstrom. Toot your horn. And Patricia Heeb and Mark McGinnis. Thank you to all of you who've made your pledge. Keep tooting your horns. Because that's really what we have to do to thrive together, is toot our own horns. So let's take a look here at all of our ribbons are getting hung up. Miriam has made a house for each of our pledging households, right there, hanging from our beautiful little bridge under this beautiful space. So if you made your pledge today and you haven't eaten your chocolate yet, go for it, eat your chocolate now. And if you've already eaten your chocolate, wonderful. We have one more special surprise that we want to offer. We actually have a couple, but you know, we have a beloved new friend of our congregation that raised quite a stir at our annual auction. And he's back with us for a special moment. And so I want you to get your bubbles out, because this is our moment. Mr. Bernie Sanders, who was quite the hot ticket item at our auction. There he is, friends. Let's blow bubbles with Bernie. He's so excited to be joining our Unitarian Universalist. Bernie, it's so nice to see you. It's probably as cold here in Boise today as it was that fateful inaugural day, but we love your mittens nonetheless. So rest assured, my friends, if you were worried about Bernie, he is safe and he is happy. We are so glad that you are part of this community. This is how we have thrived together. This is us. We have flowers here on the railing. We have the houses and pledges to represent the way in which this community thrives because of all of you, because of the gifts of your heart, the gifts of your resources, the gifts of your love and care and connection. And we will continue to thrive and to gather together well into the future. We have one final video to share with you today, a beautiful compilation video that includes an original poem commissioned for this day, written by our very own Deborah Smith and voiced by many talented readers in our congregation, followed by one last surprise piece of music. Enjoy.
To Gather Together by Deborah Smith. How casually we came into our common space. How commonplace to come so casually into a place.
We never reckoned it'd become a casualty of this coronavirus.
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 How unceremonious our comings and our goings.
How precious were our gatherings.
How precarious our spontaneity.
Now this coronavirus, how like a crown of thorns, how thorny were our first few tries of trying out technology to emulate the rituals once performed inside this place we knew as fellowship.
To gather together.
To gather together.
To gather together.
To gather
together.
together.
To gather
Together.
together.
Forgive us. We did not know then how precious, how precarious our togetherness.
How impervious to our fragility. How frail our understanding.
Standing on the ground we knew as solid until it shifted beneath our feet.
Before that time, we felt as solid as the matter we clothe our souls in.
No matter whether we find companion with the stars, the stark truth is we forget we are part of a whole, wholly human with holy souls, and we are frail.
Then the spring arrived, a greening, and we grew to know how the world unfurls its leaves and petals, pedaling our bikes on paths by the river. We said hello from a distance, and often in passing, because the masking camouflaged our smiles, and we'd ride for miles wondering who we hadn't recognized, seeing only quick-like their eyes.
But we began to realize that fellowship was more of an idea we carry in our hearts, and not a building or a place. Maybe it could be replaced by seeing a face on a screen. Not a face that we zoom by on bicycles, but a face that we zoom with in worship. Weekly clatches and classes, check-ins and checking in on.
We settled into summer and didn't settle for any less as our community gathered in numbers and strength, creativity and commitment in the comfort of our homes, where we announced the addresses where chalices were lit and sorrows were posted and celebrations boasted.
And we grieved not being together, yet we gained by becoming clearer about what it truly meant to reckon with our legacy of opportunities for some. While some were robbed and repressed, their infringed rights never redressed,
And what did it mean to respect inherent worth if we inherit worth at different rates and inherit wealth at a staggering state of unfairness?
As the earth, our home, tilted toward that season of bright, fiery colors, we learned we would be burrowing in for the duration of the winter. Our season of discontent continuing.
But the election brought respite, if only for a moment. When the momentum of hate threatened to overwhelm us, the discord inherent in democracy causing a cacophony inescapable, were we even capable of staying as one country?
Were there times in our past so fraught with friction? Our congregation had weathered storms and afflictions from Vietnam that divided us to hate-filled propositions that guided us to join in solidarity with those who positioned themselves with the resounding claim of dignity for all.
And all throughout our congregation's history, our spirits sought to grapple with life's enduring mystery.
How to make our lives worthy of our best. Those mothers and fathers in our past who pursued liberal faith in a literal desert.
Surrounded by and hounded by voices of hate and exclusion, those voices shouted that our commitment to compassion is a delusion, but we refused to collude in their vision.
So, each Sunday for 60 years we have met to affirm the worth of each person, the wealth in our connections to each other. We gather together in the sanctuary of our hearts, and heart to heart we hold fast to our purpose.
The commitment to our collective thriving and to overcome the striving that puts one group above another, forgetting we are sisters and brothers.
And now another spring has come, and we have begun to unfurl ourselves like new leaves, leaving our homes that had become bunkers, and venturing out to view what our Mother Nature has provided for our pleasure.
It is beauty beyond measure and meant to be enjoyed. With joy, we await a time again when we can gather together. For together we thrive.
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 For together we thrive. When we can take the soft hand of a friend or find ourselves frantically hugging those whom we've missed.
What a celebration! What a hallelujah chorus we'll make of our homecoming.
What a glorious gift. What a present, all the more precious, having learned the value of each other's presence. Together.
Let's celebrate us.
For we know now how precious,
how precarious
our togetherness.
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 My cups have emptied, my well is running dry. Life's so strange these days, should I laugh or will I cry? New
your candle burning low. You work hard these days, seems there's just not much to show. I look into your eyes and I see that holy light. I'll kindle my flame with yours, together we'll shine bright. Together we thrive, together we grow, and as we share, we'll come to know the way will be brighter, the road will be blessed, as I cheer you on and you ease my stress. With faith we will build, for justice we strive, as we work together, together we thrive. Grant us the wisdom to know how much we need each other on this journey. Grant us the generosity, the strength and courage to open our hearts to each other and to the world. The plane seems rocky, as though it may not be. We've been working so long, out here in this lonely field. Let's join our hearts in hope as we till this sacred ground. Sowing seeds of friendship, and here love will be found. Together we thrive, together we grow, and as we share, we'll come to know the way will be brighter, the road will be blessed, as I cheer you on and you ease my stress. With faith we will build, for justice we strive, as we work together, together we thrive, together we thrive, together we thrive.
Oh, choir, friends, thank you. It's been a long service. Thank you for sticking it out with us this morning, week after week, year after year, decade after decade. It is delightful to share in this thriving community together. Before we depart with a closing blessing, I do want to take a moment to thank many people who made all of the surprises and beauty of this day so special and possible. Thank you, stewardship team. Thank you, Rachel Strong and Nancy Harms, Jem and Carrie and Dave. Thank you, Miriam. Thank you, my fabulous husband, Michael, on tech. Thank you, Mike Lemieux, for your amazing videos. Thank you, Soulful Sunday Band and choir, and all of you who contributed to this beautiful moment. Thank you, Deborah Smith, for your words. I invite you to place your hands over your heart or reach out to the person sitting next to you on the couch for our closing blessing. We are keepers of the flame, protectors of a legacy we may not yet see. We are the shoulders others will rise up on and hold on to, reaching for hopes and dreams. In times like these, we turn to this community of faith, hope, and love, of justice, equity, and compassion to remind us who we are and how we thrive. However we embody this faith, wherever a sacred space calls to us, whenever love pulls us toward each other and toward that divine spark, there too we thrive. All of this community, this place, this history, this connection, this moment in our ever-changing lives.
the love that abides in all things. Together we thrive. Blessed are we all. Go in peace.
I know it's been a long morning, but if you would like to take an opportunity to chat with each other and particularly to share the answers to that question, how has Boof helped you thrive? Please join our breakout rooms. Have a wonderful Sunday, everyone. Thank you for your generosity to this community. We'll see you soon.